phone and stuff sorted and figured out. It's kind of new to me trying to do any kind of live feed, so definitely open to any ideas or suggestions. Since this is just something I'm pretty new at, also figure out this whole talking. It's kind of weird to be talking to myself. Trying new things is great for the brain, so I'm going to give this a go. And maybe eventually I'll figure out these kind of details. So eventually, if anybody joins, we'll see. Talk a little bit more about what I'm doing. I'll put the hose away. And I am eventually making a tutorial video on how to make these mittens. So some of the more interesting parts of this that have instructions will be coming out in a couple of weeks. But for now, what I am working on is a pair of crochet mittens, and everybody says to me, "Oh, these look like they're knitted." And I wish I could knit. I come from a family of knitters, and knitting is great and wonderful, but it's never been something that I've been able to do. I had a babysitter that taught me to crochet, and that one just seemed to jive a little bit better in my brain. But yes, these definitely do look knitted. They're called Tunisian knit stitch, but they're really thick. And I like how thick these mittens are, because I live in Canada, in Ottawa, and it's not unheard of or all that unusual for it to become minus 20 degrees Celsius. And at that point, gloves don't tend to work too well because they keep your fingers separated, so these are extra warm. And you can see where I'm working on them, they're extra thick. You can see that they're sort of like this row, which is the return pass that becomes kind of bulky. It traps in lots of heat, blocks the wind quite a bit over time. If I was using wool or something, it might felt together. In this case, I'm using acrylic yarn. You definitely do not want to be using a cotton on mittens because it'll just soak up all the wetness and you'll have really cold hands. This is acrylic that I'm trying to use up a lot of my stash because I am a sucker for pretty colors all stuck together in yarn. And I buy the yarn and I love the look of it in the ball, but then when I go to make something with it, the colors pool in weird ways and I get kind of disappointed. It's like I'm always trying out my variegated, my multicolored yarns, and it really seems to depend on the project how well it's going to look together once it's worked up. Do knitters have those same problems? Maybe? I'll have to ask some of my knitter friends in the future. But doing this technique, which is Tunisian knit stitch with an extended return pass, you set up these really nice columns and the secondary color shows through and it sort of breaks up the pooling of the colors in it, so that it sort of makes the different colors stand out a bit differently. I really like this look, so I'm probably going to be making lots of mittens in my future. So far I've created videos, although not edited them and posted them yet, about making this cuff, which is nice and stretchy and warm. This is made not Tunisian crochet, it's made in bamboo stitch. It's slip stitch. We've made the gusset, which is this extra added part for the thumb, and I've just finished closing that off for my thumb hole. for the rest of the mitten. It's just making a tube. So even knit stitches all the way through. Now here in Ottawa, it is 1:15 in the afternoon. A little bit of a quiet time for me. Usually I would be preparing supper or doing some chores around the house, but today I felt, you know what, taking a bit of me time, I crochet a little. I kind of got sucked into doing just one. But that's okay. The chicken is brining for supper. Kids, the house is always going to look a bit like a disaster anyway. But I thought I'd pop on here for, maybe 20 minutes. Just relax a bit with the repetition. And then after a bit, I'll go back to my day. I've read on here on YouTube that after I make this video, that it'll be automatically saved or archived, something like that. And if I don't sound too much like, if I don't sound too silly, let's say, I might post it over onto my normal videos, but I'm not sure if people would be for that or not. It's all kind of new. I wonder if people sort of tune into this. Why do different people crochet? Do you do it for what you make at the end? Do you do it for the relaxing? Do you do it because you have a bit of a yarn addiction, but then once you've bought it, you're kind of committed to doing something with it? I certainly like going to the stores and squeezing a few balls here and there. There's a nice little yarn group that I go to at my local library. And some people come in with the nicest balls of yarn, and we kind of all just take a little squeeze once in a while. It's two different hobbies, collecting yarn and doing stuff with it. And I suppose then I have a third hobby too, which is collecting patterns. And if I post this later, it won't be live, so I won't be able to answer the questions as they happen. But if you have any questions or comments, I'll be sure to read them and reply. Because it's nice to connect with other people and not always just be talking to myself. I wonder what time of day would be the best time to post something like this. Generally, this time of day is sort of my down period. I do a lot of errands and get things done in the morning. I have a little break after lunch before all the routines start up again for the rest of the day. Sometimes I have some time at night when I, stay up too late when I should be sleeping. I'm taking my me time then. When do you crochet the most? I also crochet quite a bit when I'm waiting for the kids at different extracurricular activities, but I'm not going to do a live feed then. That's kind of weird. Maybe it isn't. I don't know. In the summer I don't crochet too much because I'm usually busy. Pretty soon I'll have to bring out one of those blankets I started last spring. Those finished up. Last night in Ottawa got pretty cold. I imagine we had one of our first frosts, but I'm not sure, but we had windows open. In the middle of the night I had to get up and get one of my crocheted blankets and stick it on the bed. probably weighed a ton, but it felt nice. So it's a nice time of year when we can keep the windows open a bit. And for anybody joining in to watch the video now, I'm working on a nice pair of Tunisian crochet in the round. So that means I have this double-ended hook and I'm going in circles to make a pair of mittens that are extra warm because they have this 2-layer fabric that's sort of made. So there's this return pass, which is this solid color, and it makes this nice thick inside. On the outside, we have this stitch that looks like it's nicely knitted on the wood side there to add some decoration. I like to crochet because when I'm crocheting, I'm kind of busy, but my mind is thinking about all the other things that I have to do. I have to come up with some projects soon of what crochet gifts I'm going to be making this year because they take a little while and we have to plan these things in advance. Our mail people are on strike right now, so if I have to send things and ship them over to family, they'll have to allot for some extra time there. I think soon I'll have to do some snowflakes. I always like doing a couple of snowflakes every year for the tree. Or I put them on presents as gift, sort of like with the gift tag, and starch them really well so they hold their shape. But for now, I think I'm going to make a few pairs of mittens. Never hurts because sometimes you lose a pair on the bus or they fall out of your pocket. Like I said earlier, I've got lots of variegated yarn to use up. I'm going to have that space for other things soon. I'm going to make some stuff. Now I made a pair of mittens earlier in September, a bigger one, bigger size, and I had enough yarn from the 2 balls to actually make a hat. I guess some places they call it a beanie. When I was growing up, we called them toques. Just a pullover hat with a fold-up brim and a pom-pom on top. And that'll make a nice little set and a nice little gift. Now, if I was only crocheting myself for a day and I didn't have anything else to do, you know, the ideal world, I could probably make 1 mitten a day. So it'd take 2 days to make a pair. And then another day to make a hat. But as it is, it's probably like, 10 or 15 minutes here and there crocheting throughout the day, or maybe an hour or 2 at night before bed. And in that case, it might take a week, maybe 2 weeks to get a set done. But for me, it's not really about pumping out the end product. It's sort of about making something by hand, slowly, relaxing. And just finding a little bit of time in the day for me. Right now, in previous videos, I figured out my gauge for once. Sometimes it doesn't matter, like if you're making toys or blankets, the gauge isn't really too important. It's important for things that you want to make sure they end up the right size at the end. So, clothing, mittens, socks, things like that. Maybe a hat. I once made a hat that was so huge, it was ridiculous. I thought it was going to felt, but then after a bit I realized that it wasn't actually made out of wool. It was not in fact going to felt. But But, you know, sometimes you have a good laugh and you learn, and then you go on with life. I don't even know what happened to that hat. I wonder if it's still kicking around somewhere. But it was ridiculously big. So the way I've done this, I'm making these mittens about 8 inches in length. And you see on my notes down here, I was figuring out that's 20 stitches, 20 rows to make 4 inches. So the mitten body ought to be 40 rows total. Doing the thumb and gusset used up 14 rows. So now I have 26 rows of this tube to make before I close it off. Well, the nice thing about making mittens, if you already have one made, like this one here, I can just count what I did before or take note. Sometimes I take good notes. Or just match them up and make sure the two are the same size at the end. For Tunisian in the round, I'm doing a knit stitch where you insert the hook in between the front and back vertical bars, yarn over and pick up a stitch. And I do this all the way along until I have quite a few on. Usually about half of it, sometimes a bit more than half. When I'm holding my hook, I'm just kind of bunching up the stitches here. You don't have to. You can make it really long and fill up the whole thing, but at some point it's hard, so you have to get around the back side. When I have enough stitches on this, we switch sides and we work the stitches off. Tunisian crochet is so relaxing for that. You pick up stitches on one side and then you work them all off. I've looked on YouTube. I don't see a whole lot of Tunisian in the round. I saw on Amazon that there's a book there that maybe I should try. It had like a nice cowl or capelet or something like that. Shades of purple on the cover. Might be a new project to do next. This hook I have, I got probably about 15 years ago in a thrift store. Since then, I've slowly been amassing a collection of double-ended crochet hooks and Tunisian hooks. There was a store that had been open probably for about 70 years by where I grew up that closed this year. And I got a Tunisian crochet hook. I phoned my mom. I said, "Mom, go get that for me." I said, "Any size, just get one of everything that they have if it's these long hooks. Double points if they're double-ended hooks." And she got these wooden ones that are probably about a meter long. I'm not sure what I'm going to use with them, but it'll be an exciting adventure. Maybe a blanket. I have to keep them out of reach of my kids because my kids will probably turn them into swords, and then I'll have broken Tunisian crochet hooks or rough bent out of shape ones, and that won't be fun. And I've seen crochet hooks that are double-ended on Amazon, but both sides are not the same diameter. And sometimes they have a thumb grip in the middle that messes up their gauge a bit. And you can definitely work with them, but make sure that if you're picking up stitches, you're picking them up using the bigger side and working them off using the smaller side. If you do the opposite, your stitches will be too tight and they won't slide over to the other end. I guess you won't make that mistake more than once because it won't work and you'll just undo it and start back the right way. But I do crocheting all different forms. I've done, the doilies and snowflakes and stuff with the thread. Done some big stuff. The one yarn that I haven't tried yet is that really fluffy chenille that I see all the people making the amigurumis out of. Works up really quick, looks nice and fluffy. I'm not a big fan of the feel of it. Kind of gives me the heebie-jeebies a bit for whatever reason. I am doing some Tunisian color work using crochet cotton thread, like the mercerized thread. I'm not sure what I'm going to make out of that, mostly just playing around. I've seen some people pop on and off for this video. No comments yet, but maybe I'll post this evening just to see if anybody wants to kind of hang out with me for a bit. Maybe post some thoughts into the comments. Just say hi, and then we will. I'll see them there, and I'll reply. It'll be a really nice way to connect with some other people who are interested in crochet, or just like to see the look of it, or just browsing around on YouTube for the day. And that, I'll just finish up my row here. I have a little stitch marker way down here. I don't have to move up my stitch marker every time, thankfully, because it saves me a bit of time. Because in using this technique, everything just lines up in these nice little rows, and that makes it really easy to keep track and to count. And the variegated yarn also makes it really easy to keep track. So while I wouldn't say that this is an absolute beginner project, if you're going to get into Tunisian crochet and want to try something, this is a pretty good project to start with. It has a lot of repetition, easy to count and see your stitches. Make something that not going to take forever, like a sweater might take a long time, or making a blanket can take forever. Not going to have a lot of ends to weave in at the end. The hardest part here is when we cast on some stitches in order to complete the thumb. So whoever's been joining me here, thanks for popping by. We'll see where we got to in the last, let's see, 22 minutes of going in circles. I always like to end by keeping a few stitches on because I have kids that I should always put away my crochet, but sometimes it gets left out, but this keeps my hook on, so my hook doesn't fall out and things don't unravel. If they do, it's not a big mistake. I can find usually a loop and just keep on going. But here's where we are. We've done the cuff, which is nice and stretchy. A thumb gusset, where we'll add on the rest of the thumb later. And now working on the rest of the body. And when you make something, it's nice to try it out. So that's sort of where we're at. This is making the second mitten to join its partner here. They're super thick, super comfy. Going to get me through waiting at the bus stop for the kids after school when winters here hit -20 Celsius. Good for blocking out some wind. And also, if you want to subscribe to my channel, you will know, or you'll hopefully maybe get a notification when I have the full tutorial on how to make these posted. Probably thinking towards the 3rd or 4th week of October, but pretty soon I'm going to switch my crafting over into getting Halloween costumes ready. I have a kid that wants to be practically perfect, so I'll probably start working soon on a practically perfect Mary Poppins hat to go with her costume. So that's it for now. I'll catch you guys later. Have a great day.